Welcome to the first ever live Divorce Not Dead. I'm so excited to be here with you. It wasn't the original way I wanted to be here with you all, and but it's better than nothing since we're all stuck in this way. This is actually quite a nice way to do it from home. But so it's 5 a.m. in the morning for me, so forgive me if I'm up and down, but I'm hoping I'm going to be very with you today. I wanted to sort of start with explaining why I started Divorce Not Dead and how it came about. I mean, I don't know if some of you may or may not know, I had something called According to Caroline, which again sort of led into this, which was meant to be about just living your best life. I wasn't at that stage expecting to get divorced and change my life entirely, but it was kind of the beginning of my journey, actually. And as I've gone along doing this show, I've understood more and more what I'm meant to do. And I think it's not only for divorcees, and I wanted to sort of get that across, that I'm not advocating that everybody jumps up after this show and immediately leaves their husbands. I actually do love the institution of marriage as well. And I would get married again. And I do believe that marriage is an amazing thing. I just don't believe that it's necessarily has to be forever. I think our lives are built from amazing chapters. And that's what I wanted to explain to you. So, or go through to tonight, that, just because your marriage ends and, or you're not married, you haven't got married, or you're not in the place that you necessarily thought you would be at that age, it doesn't matter, because the rule book has been well and truly thrown out, and life is just a bit of a roller coaster. And if you just learn to glide with it, that actually you will get so much more out of it, and you don't put so much pressure on yourself. And I don't consider my marriage a failure at all. In fact, I think it's one of my biggest successes. I have three beautiful children. It's brought me to Dubai. It's brought me, I've got a great friend in Gem, even if it's up and down at times, which is normal when the emotions are involved. But if you all come out with the best part, I have a family, I have a boyfriend, I'm in a really, really good position right now. And, so is he. So I do feel Divorce Not Dead is to tell you that life doesn't end at 40. I'm 44 now, and I'm just, I'm beginning to do my bucket list of things that I really wanted to do while can still do it. I am starting my life. I'm getting a do-over. I mean, I think some of you will know from following me that I have a much younger boyfriend now, so he is like giving me a whole second wind of life. Again, not saying that's for everyone. Um, but what I have seen from doing this for the past however many months now, I had a podcast before, and in Dubai. And this one has just been such an overwhelming sort of feeling, because I've understood, well, just to put it in perspective, I think a year of my last podcast we did in of the week of this one, numbers wise. And so it's quite incredible that this must really resonate with so many of you. And I get really, really beautiful messages from you all, just saying, about people that are divorced, people that are younger, that haven't got married yet and feel immense pressure from their families to be married, people that have been widowed, that feel incredible guilt, or have been, society pressures. And I think that I wanted to discuss and go through some of your questions tonight as well, because, from my perspective, I mean, who are we living up to? What is society today? Because, who are they to tell me or to tell you how to live your life? If it feels right for you, you must do it. This isn't a dress rehearsal. We have one shot at this. No one is going to be there. None of these people are going to be there on your deathbed. So the only person that you are going to be able to look back at is yourself. I have a lot of messages from widowed women who, of course, it wasn't their choice to be left. They've been left in a terrible way, which is, shock and things like this, and feeling the guilt and pressure of not dating too soon. What's too soon? If you're getting divorced, or a person has been left by their husband, what does it mean, by dating too soon? because what? Oh, sorry. Dating too soon, because there is no too soon. If it feels right to you, you must go for it, because you never know if um you will get the chance to do it again. That person may or not be there by the time you've got around to it. I had another woman contact me yesterday who said, I'm 44 and I'm waiting for the right man. I'm like, waiting for what? Are you out of your mind? So I think that the reactions I'm getting to this, and there's so many questions about also co-parenting, um, all the issues that I found myself in going through now, and going through it within in the middle of a pandemic as well. So you're stuck at home in an unnatural habitat, and I think a lot of people are getting divorced through this, which I also am trying to sort of say, hold your horses a minute, because hopefully this will end and you will get your normal life back. But it's been incredibly hard for everyone, having the children home 24 hours, your husband home 24 hours. Um, it's a very weird bubble. It's not a normal one. Um, and I chose my guest today. So very excited to have Tracy Tutor is going to come on in a bit, and because she's also a divorcee with children. She actually met her current boyfriend, I think I'm right in saying, in the pandemic, and he is also younger. Again, not advocate. This isn't for everyone. It's so funny that our stories are so similar, but again, it's not an age thing. It's I think Tracy and I are very strong, independent, sort of vivacious women who have a sort of gust, get up and go for life. And it just so happens that I think a younger man suits us, because you know I, I need someone to drive me, and he gets up with like fresh eyes every morning, and he's like, oh, what a beautiful day it is. There's no children involved. I have three children. I know that I couldn't really be with someone with another three children. It's not like I'm the most maternal woman on the planet anyway. So to have like six children, deal with his schedule, my schedule. I have to travel for work. My boyfriend can just get on the plane and come with me. He's only got himself to think about. So I also wanted to run through things like that, because I get asked a lot about finances, you know, um, work, who pays for what. Obviously, when you have a boyfriend and we're a ready made family, you can't expect that person to come in and, you know, build half a life with you. So you come up with the rules have all changed, where before I think everything was expected to be on the man. I don't think life's like that. I never anymore. I never felt like that anyway, particularly because I just think, again, you put so much pressure on him, on men to provide everything, and then uh, it breeds sort of, I don't know, grumpiness. It breeds, there's too much pressure on them. There's too much pressure on men in society to be doing it all, and then they've got to go out and if they get divorced, they've got to provide for you, provide for another family. I do really believe and really want to teach my daughter and women that the most incredible thing that you can do for yourself ever is have a line of work, anything. It doesn't matter what you're earning. It doesn't matter, as long as you love it and you're bringing home money and you know how to earn money. I don't care if you're married to the richest man in the world, because frankly, unless you are secure in what you're going to get at the end, if something goes wrong, you're never totally secure. And you want to just always know that if the shit hits the fan for any reason, that you are able to provide for yourself in this world. And there's always a way to do that. There's always options. And I think that people are saying, or women are putting themselves in positions where they don't have a choice anymore. They don't have a choice of like, well, I've left it too late. I've been out of the workforce so long. I can't make these choices for myself. And I think that's so sad. And so I think what I wanted to do was bring on someone like Tracy, who you can see we're in very different lines of work, but we have very similar outlooks on life. Neither of us really sat around and felt too sorry about ourselves for our marriages ending because we don't feel like that. We have great fathers to our children. We had great marriages while it lasted, and we're going to go on now and have great lives. So, at that, I want to introduce Tracy. I hope she's here. It's a very odd way of doing everything. I'm really excited. Hi.
Hi.
Oh my God, you look gorgeous. So it's
How do
Tracy
you?
Tutor, my really good friend, and who's on Million Dollar Listings. I'm sure you all know her from that, since everyone's watching from the States, I guess. And a now author, which we'll get back to later. Yeah.
Hi, honey. How are you at 5 a.m. in the morning in Dubai?
I am better than when you saw me at 4 a.m. In Dubai. I've had a
Here's
coffee.
the good
I get it. Is it too early to drink? Oh
Well,
my God.
when
Mm,
when you're on a podcast talking about divorce not being dead, I say, cheers to that.
well, yes. I mean, it's been like, Tracy, I don't know. We haven't really spoken about it, but it's been so good. The reaction to this. Sorry, I've got everyone's questions over here. So it's such a weird way to be doing this. But anyway, sorry everyone if it's a bit up and down. But I wanted to, well, I was explaining that I wanted to bring you on because not only are you an independent um woman, but you are, incredibly career driven. When you come from a great background of wealth, where you have a family name, but that's not enough. Like any of us, you wanted to go make it for yourself, and you have now built a name in a TV show. You've written a book. You're an amazing realtor, and you're the mother of little girls and divorced. And sort of, how do you juggle it all? And also, like, yeah.
I mean, you're in the beginning of this process, and I was there a couple of years ago. I'm in a really, really great place now, and there's ups and downs. I think with dealing with the ex-husband and crossing into territory where it's always not easy.
Sorry, what I wanted before you go there, I just wanted to ask, I think what everyone always has been asking is, how did you know, or how do we know when it's time to go?
I think instinctually, and I talk a lot about this in my book, but I think for women, like, we don't listen to our guts. It's what we're born with. It's what makes us stronger and more intuitive than most men. They don't operate from their intuition, and we generally don't trust it as much as we should. And I think probably 5 to 6 years before I got divorced was my first inkling in my gut that I didn't think this was going to last forever.
I
And
was about
even,
5 years too.
yeah, and even I look back at it now and I get this question all the time too. When did you know? And it's like, I think you just reach that breaking point where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, I don't care what the other side of the fence looks like anymore. I've got to jump off of the fence. Like, I can't sit here in this no man's land where I'm not giving my marriage 100% because I'm not happy. And equally, Jason wasn't happy. And but it's like you're sitting in this thing telling yourself, well, we've got to do it for the kids, or we've got to do it. There's a plethora of reasons that we tell ourselves. But at some point you have to look at yourself and say, I think we'd be better parents, number one, and happier people, number two, if we were doing this in a different way. And I woke up and I flung off that fence one day, and it was so weird because it was an instant. And once I made that formal decision and I went into my attorney's office and I said, hi, I'm back again.
Wait, you went to the attorney's office first?
Yeah, of course. Like 6 months before, I sat down, my best friend came with me. I did the whole thing. And, I walked out and he's like, I don't think you're just quite ready yet. And then I came back, 6 months later and I was like, I was ready. Like, it wasn't even like, I didn't even want like a second meeting. I'm like, I'm here. I'm ready. Like, I don't want to walk out of here without being very confident that we're moving forward. And once I made that choice, there was so much freedom in it. And I think that's something that holds so many women back. They're so scared of making the decision because of what might be or might not be, or what their future holds. And I know that's terrifying for a lot of women, particularly women that aren't financially independent from
I
their
had so
husbands.
many girlfriends, come say to me, "You're crazy. It's not greener. There's not, you're 40 years old. You've got kids. What are you going to do?" And I just thought to myself, I was like you. I actually looked at this house, sat in it, by myself, and went, I'd be happy. I knew I'd be happy alone. It didn't matter if I never met anyone again. I would be happier here than I was before.
Right.
So
And I think there's like this moment where I woke up the next day, Caroline, and I was like at peace. Like the rest of it, yes, the roller coaster of like the first 6 months in mediation and sorting out, attorneys and the ugliness and all of that stuff. It really didn't get that ugly because we were clear on our mission of the direction that we were going to go with our kids. But nothing felt better than getting off that fence. And I think that so many women are terrified of what it looks like on the other side of it. But there's such peace in it because you're not hovering in no man's land. And when you hover, and I think so many women in particular hover in that land for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And then all of a sudden your whole life passes you by. And there's such beauty and freedom in landing on your feet and sorting that out. And I honestly, like, it's the one of the biggest things that I get asked all the time, and I talk about it, and it's huge. And that's why I'm so glad you're doing this podcast, because it's something that I think we should be talking about consistently, and also talking to, our friends and women about, maintaining a semblance of their own identity for the younger women out there. Like,
we all have daughters. We all have
yeah,
daughters.
you've
I'm
got
sick
to
of
teach them.
We've also got to change the narrative because, as soon as I go out for dinner or I go anywhere, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "So sorry. So sorry for what? I had 18 years." I mean, for me, that was incredibly successful. I have 3 beautiful children. It just didn't serve me anymore. Like,
Oh,
don't
by
be
the way,
sorry. Like, I'm
and by the
having a
way,
party.
in LA, I mean, 18 years sane. I think I've like conquered more than most. So, and a beautiful marriage. I take nothing away from that. And I think everybody assumes that because you end it, that there's no joy in what once was. And I do think there's a period of just the divorce process for most people where, you have to sort out certain the business part of the marriage, which, I call the ugly part. But once you get through that piece, then it becomes, let's go back to what we found amazing about each other when we first met, and then let's apply that to our children, our relationship as friends moving forward.
Yeah, you still have that no man's land, that difficult part where, I mean, I think the beginning is, the transition of having the 2 homes where the kids tell what's going on in each household without
Yeah.
really understanding the implications of that
Right.
is
Right.
very, very difficult. That for me was even harder because, you know, obviously there has to be some things that are kept for you, or, the whole thing about getting divorced and going through all this is not to
Yeah.
have the other person control you in any way.
Right.
Like,
Right. And
anyway,
yeah, and I do think I totally know what you're talking about with this. And that's something that I think I always have been honest with my children about, 90% of the happenings in my life. And I think that's the only way to function from a place where they trust you. Because I think we all can remember back to being, I don't know if your parents stayed together, but I know mine certainly didn't. And they divorced when I was 10 years old, and I remember it to the day. And I don't think they were that honest with me. And there's certain things that aren't really any of my business as their child, but I think moving forward with putting that confidence in them that they are always going to have that relationship, and that you are going to love someone else, that you are going to date. This whole concept that you need to mourn and go away for a few years to figure it out and sort yourself out. I waited 5 years, Caroline, as did you, to get to the place. By the time I was ready for
I
divorce,
was ready.
I was ready. Like, I was like, I would shoot me out of a cannon. I don't
I agree.
know.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so fast. You got over him so fast." First of all, everyone, who is everyone? It's everyone on my social media or the friends that you don't know that well that didn't
Right,
know. So
right.
like, before you've got to the place you've announced it, we have been going through this for years. And my
Sorting through
really
all of
close
it.
friends knew how I felt, and you're in and out of it, and then you push yourself back in. Like my mother said, scooch through, get back in there. The kids, and wait till the kids are old enough. You can't wait till the kids are old enough. Then you're too old.
Well,
And
forget that. Forget the fact that you're too old. You're teaching your children to remain in a relationship. And if you don't think kids are innately intuitive, like you're showing your daughters to remain in a relationship that ultimately and organically isn't making you happy. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the mom that my daughter brings home somebody, ends up marrying him, and is miserable but stays with him because that's what her mom did and her dad did. It's just not a good lesson to show, particularly in today's world, to show our children that they should remain in what? According to who? Like, not
well,
according
that's
to
the thing.
Caroline.
No. And what is society these days? Who is it that we are basing all of this on? Because as far as I'm concerned, the ones that are upper class society and all the people that, we were looking up for, they all had a multitude of lovers, every single bloody one of them. So, they were just hiding it. They weren't honest
Exactly.
about it. We actually talk about it. Instead of having the multitude of lovers within our relationships, we've gone, fuck it, we will do something about it, even if some people are having lovers or whatever they want to do. Again, you whatever makes floats your boat, whatever, however you want to get through. I know people right now who have decided that they will stay together because they are great friends, and that they will have an open marriage. And I'm actually watching this like it's a science project, because I had in my mind thought about this, going, well,
Yeah.
maybe I should do that, like maybe that would work for me,
That's interesting that you say that, because I have a friend that's doing exactly that. And I don't judge it at all. First of all, glass house, I'm not throwing any stones. But when
Me
I
too.
talked to this friend about it, I was so intrigued by the honesty between the couple.
Because
And
how does a man allow that? What do you do? High five your wife? I mean, how much honesty is too much honesty? High five your wife, because you've just both got home from bonking somebody else? How does it work? I don't know. No, I'm like, I'm
I
interested.
I'm totally interested in it too, but I think that brings up like the bigger question, which is probably another episode, but the idea of like redefining how we look at marriage and relationships. Because to
It has
me,
to change.
this concept about marriage, it's like a you sign on the dotted line. It's like a governmental contract. Like, why can't we treat marriage like we treat, and I hate to say this and I'll probably get quoted, but like a lease. Like, I'm going to renew for another 10 years because I'm incredibly happy, versus this I hate the idea of until death do you part. Says who?
Well, you and I will get onto this in a minute. We both have young partners, right?
Yeah.
So I am sick to death of hearing like, where's he going to be? Oh, how ridiculous. Where's he going to be when you're 80? I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going to be when I'm 80.
I don't
So,
even know.
no. And I'm like, they're like, are you going to marry him? I'm like, I have no idea. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I just like a great party, and like, if I want to
Right.
marry him and I want to dance down the line, and they're all waiting for him to get up and go. He may well not. Who cares if I've had 1 year, 5 years, 5 minutes, 5 months? I'm married and having a great time. If as long as you have a prenup, do whatever you want. Live.
Right.
What does it matter? It will be an amazing another chapter to look back on.
Well, let me tell you something, because I do have in the divorce cycle on you, and I've definitely dated men my age and older than me, and now I'm dating someone and in love with someone that's younger than me. So, and significantly younger than me. And I have to tell you, like,
What's your age difference?
almost 20 years.
Same. So mine's the same. 18 years, 19 years.
It's like
18.
19 and it's 19 plus years. And
Same.
you know, what's so interesting about it is he is more emotionally connected than any man that I dated post my husband that was
Exactly
my
what I would
age.
say.
You know what I mean? Like, if there's something going on with me, he's like, what's wrong? You're upset. I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I'm so used to not having to navigate that, and I really don't know how to, because I'm not used to having someone that actually is reading my emotional state. So
Or
that's the
actually
first thing.
gives a
And or
shit.
actually, but yeah, gives a shit is even more
Or
important.
just
But
not just happy that you've got home from work and you're tired, and like
right,
shut up because you're both exhausted. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that like it's I think that women and traditionally are just more comfortable with what the traditional version of the relationship is. Now, where I live, and I'm not sure about Dubai or the UK and as
Oh
much
no,
because I've
I'm breaking ground here.
I'm sure you are.
First, first of all, divorce isn't really loud, let alone like I mean I'm yeah, either I'm Marmite here.
Well, and I live in LA, and so the fact that and this is a very liberal city, and but traditionally speaking, it's a 60-year-old dude dating a 25-year-old girl, and no one says boo about it. But because I'm dating someone that's younger, I mean, you should see some of the things that happen on my social media. And people say don't respond or don't pay attention to it. And really truly 90% of the feedback is positive, because people who follow me have watched me go through so much, and I'm very authentic on social media with
We're
like where
very
I'm
similar.
at.
We're very, very similar like
You are
that.
the same. You're exactly the same. And I feel like that women connect to it. And then I feel like there's really disgusting haters out there. And the first time I posted a picture of Eric and I was a simple, we were at San Ysidro Ranch, and it was a simple shot of him just giving me a kiss on the cheek. And you would have thought I committed like an egregious crime, because the feedback from people on social media, and it started this disgusting trend, was horrible. And if the tables were turned and he was 44 and I was in my 20s, no one would have blinked.
Well,
Everyone would have said lovely couple.
same, exactly the same. And it's like I get a lot of things like, are you paying for him?
I get that too.
I find incredibly insulting. I get a lot of like, what's a younger guy can't be with an older woman unless she pays for it. But that's what I think we look pretty good for
That's
our
how
age.
I view it. And by the way,
Yeah,
my body is better than some 25-year-olds right now. So, I mean,
100%. I feel the best I've ever felt. And
same.
then I get a lot of like, oh, he looks like your son. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I get the same.
but he's not. He's not my son, and he's nothing
Let
close
me
to my
prove it to
son.
you.
Yeah, exactly. He must be gay. Definitely not. We're having a lot of sex, people. It's so I find it so insulting. But honestly, you're right. You live in Tinseltown, where every single guy dates a woman at least 20 to 30 years younger, and we are being treated, because it just doesn't happen very often our way around. But instead of celebrating us and going, you know what, women, we are in our 40s, we do look great, we look and feel better than, I'm telling you, Tracy, and that's what I try to explain to women. No, he's not held here captive. I don't have him chained up to my bed. He is free to leave whenever he wants, and he chooses to stay here. So what it is that we are independent. We're not like, oh, little lost souls. We know what we're doing. We leave them
Right.
alone to do what they need to do in the day. We're not calling them every 5 minutes going, where the hell are you? We're not saying you can't go out with the boys. We are, because of our confidence, they are just so much easier with us than they are women their own age. It's not for
Well, and
every young
that's
guy.
honestly, Caroline, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think that is the reason that younger men are attracted to women like us, because we're confident, we're secure with where we are in our lives, we're not needy, but we still have an expectation that you're going to treat us well. But the problem with dating sometimes women their own age is they're women in their 20s that are still finding themselves. I think back to where I was when I was 23 and 24 and 25 and 26 years old, and I met Jason. I was a wreck. I was madly in love with him, but I couldn't sort out how to navigate it. And it's because I wasn't in my own body yet. I didn't know who I was, and it's like now that I do, I think that's terrifying to men my own age. I think it's terrifying to men that are successful and are maybe my equals, or in terms of financial and work and career and all of that other stuff. The expectation of who some people would like to see me with, right? Head of studio, big agent, director, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, they don't want to deal with me because they prefer to have they have a very challenging job. They want someone on their arm that isn't really going to say a whole lot. And there's plenty of women that are going to sign up for that.
And move straight into their house without any of their clothes.
Or expectations.
No expectations, right. And just be happy to be with them. And
yes, my dad dated many of those women for many, many years, and I saw it growing up. And maybe there's something to that too. But I think and we don't have to stay on that topic forever, but I do think that's something that you and I both relate to. And I think that is because we are at a place in our lives where we did jump off the fence and it feels good. And I don't want to make any apologies for it. And by the way, I'm not going to, and neither is Eric.
And nor am I. So I think we're going to move to questions from everyone. But what I think we're trying to say, whether you're, our age or younger, for young girls that are watching this tonight, and if you're not married, marriage is not the end goal. I think that's really, really clear. Marriage should be, the icing. It should be the cherry, but it's not the cake, because the cake is your happiness, finding out who you are, getting your own inner confidence, which is where we are now, and that you don't make the wrong decisions. And not that we made the wrong decisions, because our ex-husbands or whatever are perfect fathers for our children and perfect for who we were back then.
Absolutely.
But if you haven't met that first one, you'll get your second one. You find the right man when you know who you are more. So anyway, I have questions that people have been sending in for us.
Uh-oh.
Well, yes, exactly. Uh-oh. So
go to the tough ones.
Okay. Why do people cheat?
Oh dear. I think, and now that I have some space from being in obviously a very long-term relationship, for 18 years of my adult life, most of my adult life, I think it's unrealistic to assume, and this is obviously my opinion now, and this again is going to be slanted at what I feel and what I'm going through, which is not traditional. I don't believe that monogamy is achievable for most people for 50 years. I think there's the romantic stories like in The Notebook. I think there's couples that that you look at and you go, I want to grow old and be just like them and be on a porch somewhere having an iced tea and reminiscing about, when we were younger. And this is all like media bullshit. Like, it is very difficult to remain in love and remain fettered by anybody else that crosses your path in the 20 or 30 years that you might be in a relationship. You meet people, you have connections, you're dead inside if you don't. It's how you manage those connections that makes you a good person or a fuck up. And that's like the cheaters out there that have failed at that and obviously have gone outside their marriage without having any kind of conversation or dialogue, um, are
Very
not
hard, Tracy, to break to start that dialogue. I don't know where that's where we're discussing an open marriage versus a, a
right.
normal marriage, because how
But
much
it doesn't,
information is too much information. I wouldn't want to like pack my husband off knowing he was going out for a shag. I think sometimes
no, but I think it's
a
talking
lie
about,
is good. A small,
I do.
like
A little white lie is fine. But I do feel like the honest conversation is, hey, I'm not happy. I'm not happy so much so that someone came by my office today and told me I was really beautiful. And I don't like the way it made me feel. It made me feel good. And it made me feel attracted to them. And
I always
that's
say,
concerning.
some of the biggest lies are within a marriage. And what I don't like is when all the friends know, and then you or the other
Well,
person are the last.
well,
And that,
again, here's the challenge. When you start talking about your marriage to a bunch of different people,
yeah,
then everybody starts to have an opinion about you should leave, you should do this, you should do A, B, and C. And if you stay, then it's like difficult for those people, which then creates more drama. And you have to really be in touch with where you're at, in my opinion, so that you can navigate it. I don't think all cheaters are cheaters. I don't think all cheating people are bad people. Just think they're a little bit cowardly, because I don't think, particularly if you're in a 1 year relationship, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about marriage.
long-term relationships,
We're
yes.
talking about
Someone that
long
can't
term.
keep their pants on for the first year, then they shouldn't be married.
Right.
Absolutely. We're talking long term, and there's a multitude. And I have a different view on cheating as well, which is normally it's not about you, it's about them. And,
100%.
they need, they're missing something in their lives. They need the confidence back. They need to feel good about themselves. They either getting older, they feel that it's all about ego.
Right. So then is the discussion, and I think about this all the time, and I don't know if you have, but is the discussion with our younger generation, and I have a lot of women that follow me that are in their 20s, which is so weird. I wasn't anticipating that. But when I wrote the book, I had a lot of like 25-year-old women that were like, I really appreciate you. And it's like, is the discussion with them about start to redefine what your version of marriage is before you do it? Because for the person that asked the question of you, like,
Oh,
limits are, and make your marriage what you want it to be, and talk to your boyfriend about that, or
and
talk to your girlfriend.
it can only be you. I think friends can change that dynamic and give you such false information, because at the end of the day, it can only be you that defines the marriage you want. Because I'm
100%.
a firm believer. I get a lot of things, people writing in going, well, my husband cheated, but I still love him, but everyone says I should leave him. Well, no. If you want to stay, stay. There's no shame in staying. There's none.
Not at all. And by
Not
the
at all.
way, you guys, it's sex. There's so many other ways to betray someone on such a deeper level. You can conquer cheating. It's betrayal at different levels that becomes something that you can't recover from. So I feel like for the younger generation, it's a discussion about being honest about, so many people cheat, so many. And so you better start facing that and start redefining how you look at forever,
And now you get through it.
and how you get through it. And then secondly, the conversation with women our age that have been married or have been through things like this, and start saying to yourself, okay, well, I grew up in a generation that taught me differently. So how do I access it? And that's why I'm so glad you're doing this, because it's so important to talk
We
about.
have very similar views. I've got another question here with, how do you start dating? Well, it's true. Like with us, we have children. How do you date a single mom? with kids. Well, I mean, like I for me, I consider it you date the same way. I mean, I didn't bring my boyfriend into the home with my children until we had, I established that he was staying. But you had a different experience because you started dating in the middle of a pandemic. So, you had no choice.
Well, as far as Eric went, we actually met before the pandemic, and we met when I want to say October or November of last year, and we were friendly, and then it got a little bit funny. And then, it became something else, obviously, when we started spending a lot of time together. But when I initially got divorced and started dating, I told my kids the truth. Mom is going out on a date tonight. And you know what? By involving them in that process, whoa, who are you going out with? What's he like? Why do we have to hide the fact that once our marriage is no longer there, like they didn't die? This isn't like it's if you begin that conversation with your children that we are going to continue to be your parents, but we're both going to eventually fall in love again, involve them in that process so it's not a shock. Like you're not in mourning for 2 years and then all of a sudden there's a random man at your door. Like
No,
take them through that experience. I went on a
everything that you're
date. He
saying.
wasn't for me.
I was going to say I'm not a huge fan of therapy for me. I mean, I went for, things for the children, but I wasn't going to go for my divorce because I made up my mind my ex actually asked, and I thought to myself, there isn't a therapist on the planet that's going to tell me to re-fall in love or that we can work this out, because that's where it's probably going to go.
Well, guilty, because I did do that for a couple of years. And the thing about therapy is you have to be authentic in it. So if there's only one party that is honest and another party is not, then it's just a really a big fat waste of finances.
Well, I also
In,
felt the same because there was lots of things I didn't want to get into. I wasn't going to say because it was done, it was done, it was done. There's no
yeah,
point really playing the game, blame game.
yeah.
I spent 5 years getting to that stage. What was the point of telling him all the reasons why, or vice versa? Because at the end of the day, I need him to be my friend. I need to get through the other side to get what I want with my children. So to drag everything up that we did wrong in our marriage or where we've behaved inappropriately or what we did wrong, it just was never going to be helpful to me.
I
So
did
that's what,
all of that.
yeah.
So whether or not it accomplished something, I think is like that's something that you can kind of sort out within the couple. For me, it didn't, because I don't feel that Jason. I think Jason and again, I don't know who's listening, but the truth is, Jason wanted to put on a image for himself, not forget TV, forget all of that shit. But I think Jason truly wanted to put an image out there for himself that said, I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband. So he told himself the lie of I'm a good husband over and over and over again, and then villainized me in the process, which is why I tried to go to therapy. But he wasn't willing to face that. And so it really went
Well, that's
nowhere.
men. We're always the bad one. If we're the ones that made the decision, we're the bad ones.
Right.
And I think that that's just again easier for the ego that we didn't try, we didn't do these things.
Right.
But I think the other question I got is, should you give back your engagement ring? I did not. I was married 18 years. I,
Hell no.
yeah. I mean,
Give
I only
back your
think you give back your
engagement ring.
yeah. You only
No.
give back your engagement ring if you were like engaged for a week or a month or whatever. Definitely not when you're engaged for when you've been married 18 years. It's
I mean,
mine.
listen, if you're engaged and it goes super sour and maybe it's a fast engagement or something, I don't know. I can't, I think that's personal. It depends on the relationship and the extent of it. I can't imagine. Not only would I not get back I barely gave up any furniture. Are you kidding?
As everyone's asking, it sounds like we both just, I think the reason that you and I really got divorced is that we just grew up. There was no right or wrong in the end. It was just that we all grew apart. Simple. We just changed who we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our cases, yes. Maybe even in my case, a little bit different. But I think in some cases, there's tragedy that happens. People, families go through trauma. There's a variety of things that happens to women. And I just think that, like, at a certain point, you have to get to a place when, particularly at our age, like if you're not self-aware enough to have a conversation with yourself and say, this isn't working, I need to wake up and I need to face this like head on, then guess what? You're going to wake up in 10 years from now and be as, oh, my girlfriend just got here. She's getting a glass of wine. Tequila.
Oh my God. When did you move, like how did you introduce Eric to the kids?
Well, again, just so you guys understand, for those of you guys that are tuning in, I dated other men prior to Eric, and the first two men I dated were both in their 50s, enormously different, and I waited a significant amount of time before I introduced them. They knew I was dating, as I kind of mentioned to you guys earlier. With Eric, because I had a friendship with him and he was training me, we, like, my daughter Juliet trained at the gym. So she knew him. And so we started spending time together, and then she was like, what's going on? And I was like, well, but they loved it for me, and they were just happy to see me happy. And I think that's the story with children, is when they see that you're smiling every day instead of a miserable bitch, that brings them joy. And you are also teaching them to not stay in anything that doesn't bring them joy. And I think that's so crucial.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the problem is, like, I mean, my kids were great. I've had a bit of a roller coaster with Zach. Tracy, is there any way to ask them to quieten down? Everyone's sort of asking, because it's really
Oh,
being
really?
picked up. Yeah.
They're in a totally other room. I don't.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Okay.
I just getting text. So I think for me, Zach was, the problem for us. My son, he's been up and down like a yo-yo. Hi. So, I mean, my other children were fine and just happy for mum to be happier. Whereas I think, Zach, for my new boyfriend, is a competition for himself, which was a lot harder for him.
Yeah, that part I get. I didn't have that experience because Jason's ego is too big for that. but I do think that every situation's different. I've navigated my relationship with Jason in a very different way since I've been truly out of the marriage. And so it's none of his business who I choose to go out with. I will let my ex-husband know when I'm ready to let him know who it is that I'm dating. And if I want to introduce him, I will. And that's not something that I want to do.
Well, I think that's exactly, I mean, I think that's the keeping the control thing when they've had control over you for so long. It's so difficult for them. Even though you're divorced, they always want to know a little bit more. And it's a fine line, the boundaries between a divorced couple.
I agree.
For one of our last questions, and then I'll let you go off. It's about sort of, once you've been in a long-term marriage, sex. How I think a lot of women are asking, yes, are asking how to get back on the horse, as it were,
Oh,
I guess.
God, get back on the horse, girls. It's fantastic. I mean, listen, and Caroline, you can attest to this. And this is what goes back to, I am not the most traditional person since my divorce, because I've had an epiphany about how I want to live my life, and it might not fall into the category of how people traditionally live. And I'm going to mourn for a bit, then I'm going to find an appropriate man, and then I'm going to get remarried to make sure my kids have an appropriate stepfather. I'm not really interested in appropriate. I'm interested in what makes me happy. So for me, I think you do what makes you feel good. And candidly, right now, Eric makes me feel really good.
Agreed. I mean, I've chosen exactly the same path as you. I think exactly like you. I'm not looking at where I'm going to be in 100. I'm looking at, like, I
Where
think
you are
women,
today.
where you are today. I think women, I look forward to, we look forward to sort of, you rush home to have sex. I mean, when was the last time women my age are like, literally thinking about how to get out of it? And I'm thinking about ways to get more of it. And
I know.
yeah, it's amazing.
By the way,
I went to
I
my
went.
first, oh my God, you're going to love this. I went to my first sex shop the other day for underwear and things like this. Brought home fluffy handcuffs and had them confiscated from me at the airport.
Stop it! Stop it! I'm dying. No,
Dead,
I mean,
dead,
mortified.
mortified. They would pull them out. Thank God they were fluffy. And I mean, it was just so embarrassing. But anyway, my first ever pair, I didn't even get to use them, mind you. They went
Oh,
straight
that's so.
to customs. But
That's
anyway,
shameful. But no, but
shameful.
it is fun, and I do think it's a new, it's like a new era, and you
But
get to
you're
discover
glowing.
somebody. I
It
know
makes
I
us
am.
glow. It
By the
makes
way,
us
cut
happy.
to why I might have been a little bit late today. Had I let it happen, I was like, go away. But but
It's
it's
true.
it's good to feel good again, and you shouldn't apologize for it, and no woman should, and no man should. But
No,
and I don't expect Jason to do either or. I just think that, like, I celebrate today. That's where I'm at. I'm comfortable with that. I hope that other women like respond to this podcast of yours, because I truly think that what you're doing is so important, and I haven't personally heard anything like it. And that's what gets me excited, because I think this discussion
needs
is
to happen. It's long
it's so
overdue.
it's long overdue. And I think that particularly for powerful, confident women that are going through, a potential change in their life circumstance, this is the stuff that, like, makes the women that, we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast get off the fence and land on their feet, because they have, like, an example and a discussion that makes them feel like they can do it. And so,
And we're not scared. I'm not scared.
cheers to you.
There's no repercussion. Anyway, thank you, Tracy. I just wanted to tell everyone quickly about where they can get your book. And
Oh gosh, fear is just a 4-letter word, you guys. You can find it on Amazon, and you can find me on Instagram at Tracy Tutor. And if you're ever looking to buy a house in LA, I'm here.
yes. Thank you, Tracy. You've been amazing.
Love you, darling.
I really enjoyed having you. Enjoy
Thanks
your
for waking
tequila.
up.
I know. Now I'm wide awake. Love
I know.
you.
God bless. Love you,
Bye.
sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
Bye.